Apple announced that they will now basically use hashing techniques to scan for child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, on your phone. And many are quick to accept the explanations given by Apple that this technology will in no way breach your privacy. Now, I've seen the press explaining this hashing technology in multiple ways, and everyone's interpretation so far did not ring true to me from a cryptographic point of view. As I researched it further, I found out that I was correct. This technology is actually more insidious than it appears. Apple actually made it clear what they're doing, but there are technologies at work here that the average person, and apparently even tech journalists, did not understand. This tech, combined with other technologies already accepted by the population as standard in Apple devices such as contact tracing and Apple AirTags, will create a phone device that will be the best surveillance device ever made. And Apple will be the surveillance leader because it made a spy robot with artificial intelligence. You want to learn what this is all about? Stay tuned. I'm on the platform Odyssey.com, and I'm now one of the top creators on there. Just for insurance, in case I get the platform, please follow me there using the link in the description. I have a VPN service, Bytes VPN. My company also sells Google phones and VPN routers. These products are made to make your identity disappear on the internet. If you're interested in them, they are on my app, BraxMe. The link is in the description. There was a guy who made a scathing comment to me for my anti-Apple comment in the video. He says that he trusts Apple. Apple's not selling his data, therefore Apple must be better. And scolded me because he needed Apple tech due to the AirDrop feature. I'm going to be direct here in disabusing you of all of this false trust you give to the largest corporation on earth. This commenter on my video, totally misguided and will eat his words. Let me be clear. Neither Apple nor Google are concerned with your privacy. They are concerned with profits. And because Apple spent multi-millions on ads saying that iPhone is privacy, as usual, the marketing people win and you all actually believe this. While underneath, a complex infrastructure has been developed that has made iPhones the best surveillance devices ever created. Apple recently announced that they will be using a technology called NeuralHash on the phone, built into iOS 15, that will actively check your phone photos and compare it to known pedophile content called CSAM at Apple HQ. They say, without looking at your photos, they will know if you have CSAM content by comparing hashes of known photos, and then they'll report positive matches to law enforcement and disable your account. I'm going to explain to you how this could be a lot more dangerous than what Apple claims. And people who think they understand what was being said by Apple just picked up the buzzword hashing and instantly made assumptions about how that hashing actually worked. I immediately knew that hashing by itself would not work to identify CSAM, so I knew there was something more, and there is. I'll get back to that in a moment, but there is a bigger picture. Last year, Apple introduced the tracking capability supposedly for contact tracing. Yes, you got fooled into thinking this is only activated when you're using some contact tracing app. That little feature for contact tracing is actually a little beacon emitted by the phone's Bluetooth, which is a more powerful signal transmitting up to a few hundred feet. It uses a technology called Bluetooth Low Energy. In addition to sending out this beacon, your phones now have the capability to listen to this beacon and basically know which phones are nearby. Again, the uninformed masses accept this because they have no understanding of what this can be used for. Then in early 2021, they announced one of the first uses of this, which is the Apple AirTag. Apple AirTag is pretty much contact tracing with AirTags. Your phones are being used to track AirTag devices, but in the same token, your phones are able to send messages to each other even without any internet. Not just AirTags. This is a new technology called mesh networking. So these three technologies, NeuralHash, Bluetooth beacons, and mesh networking, are creating the most powerful spy device in existence. Let's talk specifically about the details of how this hash photo scanning is supposed to work. The logic given by Apple is that the CSAM scanning is being done only on your phone. Therefore, in theory, no one at Apple is examining your photos directly. The interpretation given by all the journalists so far is this. Before your photos are uploaded to iCloud, Apple will perform a cryptographic hash on the photo and then will compare that to a hash of photos in their database of CSAM photos. If a certain number of your photos exceed some threshold of identified child abuse photos, then Apple is alerted and someone will then do a manual review of your photos and then report you to law enforcement. I have several problems here. From what I've heard, there are actually two technologies here, not one. One appears to be a photo AI capability. The other is the hash technology itself. They call the entire thing the NeuralHash using private set intersections. The way I analyzed this was to see how I would do CSAM scanning if I were Apple. And then that allowed me to read between the lines, and true enough, they are implementing the CSAM exactly as I expected. We'll go through this slowly. Part 1. Hashing. First, let's focus on the hash side of the equation. Again, before you jump into conclusions as to what I'm saying, I'll give you a spoiler alert. The way everyone thinks this hashing works is not how it really works. I will explain that in the second part, which is the photo AI part. According to the interpretations I read, journalists claim that Apple will supposedly do a cryptographic hash of the photo, and then they can perform an automatic check against their database of hashes to see if there's a match against their CSAM database. Now, this doesn't sound completely right. Facebook already performs this photo hash. What they do is take a hash of every photo in your photo album on Facebook, and then they can trace if someone is sharing something they're not supposed to, either as a copyright violation or again, some photo against their rules. The way a photo hash works, it goes through the photo bit by bit or byte by byte, and then using a cryptographic algorithm, it comes up with a value that is mostly unique to that photo. So it's based on a mathematical algorithm. Two files with the same exact content will yield the same hash. Hashing algorithms like SHA-512 are frequently used to verify that downloaded content has not been modified, since you can check the SHA hash of the file and compare it to the published hash. If they're the same, then the files are identical. Hashing is the technique used to verify that certificates used in websites are authentic by matching signatures based on a SHA hash. Hashing is used in cryptocurrency to verify that the ledger has not been modified. So again, hashing is useful for verifying identical files and data. Beyond that, it can't tell you much. For example, if someone takes a photo and then edits it by putting a small dot in the corner, if this is truly a hash, then that photo is now modified and will have a different hash. Let me give you a specific example. Suppose 5 people took a picture of a woman with their own phones. I can guarantee you this, there's no chance, zero, that those 5 photos will have the same hash. That's just not how hashes work. Any difference in the image, angle, light, subject position will obviously affect the way the bytes are arranged in the photo file. So therefore, there will be no possible way to match photos of the same individual just using a standard hash. Which means the only possible usefulness of tracking via hashes is if people downloaded material from the same website and all the files are unmodified. This means that any new photo taken by the camera will not have a matching hash, since that will be the first occurrence of that particular file. It will not be in any database. Files must be byte by byte exact, or else the hash will be different. Making a simple file modification or changing the photo resolution or even modifying the non-visible part of the photo like the EXIF metadata will in fact change the hash. So realistically, if they're just doing a scan based on hashes alone, this would be completely ineffective. Just the mere uploading and downloading of photos will often change the EXIF metadata in the photo. This technique would only serve some minor advantage when sending photos via SMS or iMessage or email. Attachments to either could then be matched against a very exact hash, catching a very small percentage of matches. And you can never find fresh content with this method. This made me wonder then if there is something else at work here. Something that's underneath the covers that we are not seeing. And they're not telling. Let me tell you why this explanation is suspect to begin with. Some people had the understanding that this CSAM scan is directed towards files pushed to iCloud. Again, the biggest misconception is that Apple somehow has end-to-end encryption on iCloud. And so they needed some capability like a backdoor that can use CSAM scanning to catch content before it reaches iCloud. But this is not the case. iCloud has no end-to-end encryption. You can download iCloud files on any device with your Apple ID. There is no device-specific encryption. Apple already announced some years back that it will do facial recognition on photos in iCloud. The intent was for social sharing in iMessage. They supposedly will do facial recognition to recognize contacts, friends, and family. This alone is an obvious privacy invasion, but many will miss the entire point here. Apple is already able to scan your photos in iCloud. They just couldn't scan your photos on the phone. Today, they can quickly scan all the photos in iCloud and see if there is content that does not abide by their legal rules, such as criminal CSAM photos. But they can already do this, and do it without needing to tell anyone but law enforcement. Apple doesn't need any special ability to scan through all photos with an AI to look for content like naked pictures and so forth. They can do that. In fact, did we already have a hack of the iCloud accounts of some famous people where their nude photos were taken from iCloud? Let me be clear here. Apple as well as Google already made it clear that they do facial recognition and other scanning of photos in their cloud photo services. Google already scans their Google Photos for CSAM content. I'm sure Apple does the same and has done the same. I'm sure they've already pre-scanned accounts and know exactly who's doing what on their iPhones based on photos in iCloud. So clearly this hashing seems to be a waste of time. They can just identify the bad people based on Apple's existing breach of privacy on iCloud and move on without any further announcement. But of course, things are never what they seem. There is a newer technology involved. This will then be merged together with hashing to create something completely new to most of you. When they mean hashing, they don't actually mean that they will hash the photo file. Instead, you will learn that they will hash the photo AI analytics. Part 2, Photo AI. I'm going to tell you right now that what they are really putting on the iOS device is a photo artificial intelligence or AI. This photo AI is the biggest chunk of the CSAM scanning equation. So what exactly does a photo AI do? I don't know if you know this, but when I do a video on YouTube, the YouTube AI will actually analyze each video frame by frame and search for content. They search for advertising and banned objects like weapons, tobacco, drugs, nudity, facial expressions, body movements, locations. YouTube will check each frame for context, and that is then used to flag the video for demonetization. The voice side is transcribed by YouTube, and there again they look for certain words. For example, certain vax-related content would be flagged. In other words, the technology to identify objects, people, and context is the feature of this AI for YouTube. Actual people don't review the videos on YouTube. It takes too many people and too much time. This is actually not terribly new. It's been around for a while. In fact, there are GitHub open source programs you can load to your tiny little Raspberry Pi computer, attach a camera, and make yourself a smart camera that actually recognizes objects. Maybe it will flash an alarm if there are people, but not fire the alarm if motion is activated by an animal. If you get a chance to ride a Tesla, you can watch the AI spot objects on the street like bicyclists, dogs, cars, garbage cans, and show it on the display as icons, and the AI reacts to it accordingly. A more advanced photo AI capability will be able to isolate programmed objects in a context. For example, perhaps a person who's nude in a certain position in a bed versus someone nude taking a bath versus a nude model in an art class. A photo AI should also be able to do some level of facial recognition that could generate a unique signature. In fact, the iPhone already has that facial recognition built into the device since you unlock the phone with your face. So it would be expected that this AI would be able to examine any photo and is able to pick out a context and content and some unique signature. Let's say the target photo for CSAM is based on an examination of existing CSAM photos, and certain characteristics are noted by the AI, particular child faces, positions, nudity, and so on. Those would be noted by the AI in a context list. Perhaps then in addition it would look at the face, do some facial recognition of that, and turn it into a numerical signature similar to face unlocking. Then these characteristics would be collected as a set of observations for each photo. Observations like facial recognition signature, position, amount of clothing, facial expression, number of people, and so on, which the AI would use to generate a context. Apple already has in its possession a collection of CSAM photos for which these characteristics can be sourced from. So it would be a simple matter then to have the AI flag these evil photos based on these characteristics. In fact, when they come up with characteristics that they claim will be unique and will generate few false positives, they could have already tested this against every photo in iCloud to verify its accuracy. Now, passing characteristics around as plain text would be too obvious, easily seen by third parties, and perhaps intercepted. So the way to do this and prevent man-in-the-middle interceptions is to pass those characteristics as a hash value. The combined technology is called NeuralHash using private set intersections. This simply means to me that the characteristics themselves are hashed, not the actual photo. Then it would be a simple matter to compare hashes of characteristics of CSAM photos against the characteristics of photos in your phone without manually looking at your photo library. Apple claims that each photo will have some sort of safety voucher. Those yielding a negative result will be given a voucher attachment that says it is clear. This would also mean that the AI would be able to spot a violating user by catching CSAM photos in the process of them taking a photograph. So what we're talking about here is very powerful. We're talking about a phone able to recognize the context of every event that passes through the camera lens or saved as a file. And here's the rub. The characteristics to be flagged by the AI are set at HQ and will be passed to the iOS device as a rule set of what to look for. Today it can be characteristics of photos of a pedophile. Tomorrow it can be characteristics of photos of a dissident. Maybe the totality of this technology hasn't completely sunk in yet, so let me give you a sense of what it's capable of. What Apple has done was to load technology for the phone to be aware of its surroundings without needing to contact Apple unless there's something to report. The phone can independently judge the context of what it sees in the camera and with very little data sent, be able to flag any sort of situation, behaviors, people that can be programmed into the photo AI. This is very efficient surveillance. Just like YouTube is able to censor a video by a frame-by-frame analysis of every upload. So right now, the YouTube AI knows what I'm saying. Fortunately, talking about what YouTube does or even criticizing YouTube and Google is not against their terms of service. But this is from an uploaded video. I deliberately make a choice to upload a video to YouTube and then wait while they do their AI checks after every upload. Now, these kinds of decisions will be made by an iPhone, and the only thing that's missing are the rules that the iPhone is programmed to use for this AI. For now, it will be programmed to recognize photos taken and collected by people that have CSAM characteristics. In other words, an anti-CSAM rule set. How hard would it be to program the phone to recognize different things from a different rule set? How about recognizing a different segment of the population? Those with guns, for example. Those would be discovered by the AI with ease. If you have any kind of behavior that could be classified by Apple as nonconformist based on their corporate social agenda, then you can be classified, categorized, and reported. I know of no more powerful weapon of state. What they've created here is an AI-enabled spy robot. It works independently. It would not even be programmed by regular Apple employees. Only a very select elite group would be able to pass this characteristic rule set or neural hash list to the phone so it can make observations about its environment and report it to home base once a positive match is received. It would obviously be a secret rule set file, and no one will be able to verify that it is based only on CSAM characteristics. That's the problem with a hash. You cannot discover the original data used to generate the hash. So if hash rule sets are passed, it would be completely opaque except to the few people at Apple who would be in control. Apple has been known to cave into governments frequently. The Chinese government can then force Apple to spot certain content and behavior as noted by the camera. Anti-government behavior, for example. It would be a simple matter for the AI to recognize gay behavior. That would be valuable for some Middle Eastern country. How about spotting nude photos of politicians for blackmail? Would that be useful to some three-letter agency? Apple has long participated in the mass surveillance activities of three-letter agencies. The AI can spot any content on the phone, beyond even photos. It could look at files, the web browser cache. Given the proper rules, it can observe anything it wants to observe. And it can observe in real time. Now, just to put this into perspective, let me combine the latest technologies introduced by Apple just in 1 year. I mentioned them at the beginning. First was the supposed contact tracing feature last year, which as it turns out is actually even more robust. What actually got added was that each device can send out a beacon that can identify the phone. And then each phone can also capture the beacons nearby and send it to Apple. This beacon tech uses a new standard called Bluetooth Low Energy or BLE. It can emit short bursts of data over larger distances. Well, that was just the beginning. The next step was the addition of Apple AirTag, which if you didn't really understand the technology, is called a mesh network. This means that each phone can communicate directly with other phones to pass information without an internet. This then is an expansion, since beyond mere beacons, we have devices that can actually communicate with each other and send messages that you did not initiate. Messages between devices that are controlled completely by Apple. To be clear, this is not unique to Apple. This feature is part of Amazon's Sidewalk using Amazon Echoes and Ring cameras and part of Google Thread using Google Nest devices. Still, it is part of a collection of features that are concerning since they're the first phone to have it. In case you also missed this, Apple already claimed that they added facial recognition to iCloud so they can alert you to contacts and photos for social sharing. Apple has had the ability to spot the exact location of any user regardless of privacy settings. But let's say you manage to disable location in some way. But now your iPhone is announcing itself to phones around you in this mesh network and announcing your proximity to AirTags that also have crowdsourced location. So let's just summarize everything I've said so you get the big picture. Your phone now has the capability to recognize its environment with a distinct context in real time based on what it sees in the camera. Your phone can be programmed to observe anything and anyone and report it to Apple HQ. Your phone can talk to other phones with a feature you cannot disable, which is the mesh network built in using Bluetooth Low Energy. These communications occur on the radio at 2.4 GHz without an internet. Your phone can find other phones and match each other's location and its proximity to AirTag beacons. Thus, your location will always be known. Let me just leave you with this thought. Any surveillance architecture added for our supposed protection and benefit in the past has never been removed. Oh, I'm sure Google will copy this eventually, but for now, iPhones win for the best surveillance device ever made, the iPhone Spy Robot AI. If you found yourself enjoying my videos, I hope you support the cause by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell. That will help us grow the message. Thank you for watching and see you next time.